Episode 18. Hey yo! Welcome to episode 18 of Who Is Music. It's a couple of weeks after the Artemis 2 has landed. A couple of weeks? It's going on a couple of months, nigga. Where you been at? If you're not familiar, it's the aircraft or spacecraft by NASA. Went to the moon and back. 10 days. The Artemis 2. I used to fuck with Artemis for real. A girl named Artemis. Jet black hair, tattoos. That stereotypical look that's popular in modern America now. Jet black hair, tattoos, nose piercings, clit piercings. Yep. But we didn't work out. She was a little too chunky for me. And I'm on Twitter trolling, talking about, man, we should be able to go to the moon and back in the same day. But then I'm looking up some of this stuff, and did y'all know that we ain't had somebody on the moon since 1972? Actually on the moon? And you want to know the reason why? It's because of how expensive it is. Cost $250 billion. So we essentially paid $250 billion to be the first at something. It don't get more American than that. And the government, once they finally planted their flag on the moon, they pretty much was like, well, fuck, what do we do now? So them niggas did nothing for like 50 years. In terms of like actually going to the moon, putting people up there and shit. And in this mission, they didn't go to the moon. They like went around it and used the orbit to pretty much slingshot them to Earth. It's really impressive, but I don't know shit about it. What they're doing now is like orbit. They're pretty much orbit testing it to start real space travel again, because now it's more affordable. Obviously, you have multiple companies going into space, sending things into space. And if niggas want to go to Mars, well, nigga, you better be able to go to the moon too. And actually, like, what is probably the most impressive about this whole Artemis 2 journey? There's a black man on board. Yeah, there's a nigga on board. What's up, guys? Yeah, this my nigga Big Vic right here. This nigga just went to space and shit. Tell him how you went to Tell him how you work for NASA, Vic. Yeah, I work for NASA. I'm an astronaut. Yeah, this my nigga Big Vic right here. He work for NASA and shit, so drinks on him tonight, ladies. I seen the interview where like he was being asked about him being one of the first African Americans like in space. And, obviously his response is how you were supposed to look at almost all situations as a minority or someone who is traditionally underrepresented in huge accomplishments or huge achievements. His answer, he's saying that it's more about human history opposed to black history or female history for the woman astronaut, and that got me thinking about like ideas or like sci-fi ideas kind of talk about like history being rewritten or like forgotten. And I can kind of see how that can become a possibility, because like think about 100 years from now. Are we going to want people who are here then to know about slavery, about how slavery used to work? And before all my black people go and get riled up, let me just remind you guys that black people were not the only slaves throughout history. They were just the most recent. And really, the English word slave actually has its roots in the ethnic identity of Slavic people. Because in the early Middle Ages in Central and Eastern Europe, like a lot of them were captured and sold as slaves. Slow down, dude. In the Byzantine Empire, an empire that had the word busy in it. Yeah, they put them niggas to work. So, if get over here, nigga. In the future, people are trying to rewrite history or make some things not be known, then their thinking would be like, why would you need to know about slavery? So, to get rid of that thinking, just get rid of whatever caused you to think about it. I'm not saying all history. I'm just saying some history. Obviously, some of the most important things are always going to have to be memorized, memorable. People are going to have to know about what happened. Especially 500 years from now. Niggas better still know what happened during World War II. That the Americans was whooping so much ass they caused the leader of the Nazi party to commit suicide on himself. Because he ain't want us to get a hold of him. That's for sure. Because, man, we would have wilded out. We would have put this nigga up in the middle of the town, told everybody buy a baseball bat, come get a swing at Hitler. Man, this nigga is not playing around today, is he? He's talking about getting some swings in at Hitler, dude. Can't compete with this nigga. Can't compete. I mean, shit, I would have pulled up there with a huge bat. Multiple bats. The government would have said, however many bats you bring is how many swings you get. You wish, nigga, you ain't getting no free swing at Hitler. $5 per swing. Pay up. I would've went 4 for 4. Hit in a couple of hit in a couple of RIBs, RBIs. Ribs. Sweet baby back ribs covered in hickory smoked barbecue sauce. But I know, like, back to this Artemis 2 landing, I know one thing that is always, like, I've always kind of thought this was funny about, like, when they come back to Earth, you know, how they have the splashdown and they essentially land in water. I've always been like, well, man, what if they land in the water and a shark is, like, waiting for them? These niggas just went to space and back, done this huge mission and came back and got eaten by a shark. But they're in, like, a capsule or whatever. So, and they got, like, the Navy or multiple boats surrounding that area, so they're, like, on them pretty quick, which is really impressive. I've seen one of the most, like, clever scams recently on the internet. I don't know if niggas can really get away with this shit, but it got me thinking that's like, man, you could probably get away with that shit for real. But people have, like, fake money, fake $100 bills, and they go to a third world country and they're handing out the $100 bills to people there, making them seem like they real so they can get, like, extra shit. Hey, that shit's smart, ain't it? It sounds smart. But what even constitutes a third world country? Like, what makes you a third world country? And what is a first world country? The United States, Western Europe, NATO, that's the first world. Previously, like, there was a second world, which was pretty much considered, like, communism. Russia, China. I'm trying to shine like China. But that phrase got, like, abandoned after the fall of Russia in, like, the 90s. So they kind of, like, stopped referring to it as second world and then just moved on to, like, they are now part of the first world. But I wonder if Brazil is considered a third world country. Man, I don't know. It always seems like Brazil is going through some type of disaster, some type of financial disaster. Because, man, niggas in Brazil got it tough. You don't ever see anything good come from there. When's the last time niggas just seen some good news from Brazil? Some positivity related to something other than someone scoring a goal? Who's the most famous Brazilian out there? Don't know. You don't know. Trust me, you really don't know who was famous and who was Brazilian besides Neymar. But I know the bigger question on everybody's mind is, why do Brazilians speak Portuguese and not Brazilianese? Why ain't there a language called Brazilianese? I'm gonna tell you why. It's because you know how many words would be in Brazilianese? Probably a Brazilian. Put that one in the Louvre. For real, put that one in the Louvre. Because if you just go around knocking on door to door, are you happy right now? What are they gonna say? Y'all already know. Nigga, get the fuck off my property for real. I got 2 hungry pit bulls in the back. So get to stepping. They're going to mention something about AI. It ain't stopping. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's looking it up. Everybody's thinking about it, you guys. So let's just talk about it. Let's just go ahead and get the big thing out of the way. I went and asked Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini who they think is going to be the presidential candidates on the 28 tickets for the Democrats and the Republicans. And all 3 of them said the same thing. Gavin Newsom and J.D. Vance. And the fact that they all 3 have the same answer, that should tell you that there is absolutely no way that is going to happen. I'm willing to say that neither of them will be the candidate on their party's ticket, because we're at the stage now where niggas are going to do the complete opposite of what AI thinks we're going to do. But the reason that they have the same answer like that is because they're all being trained on the same internet data, the discourse around the election in a couple of years. So what they're doing is all of them are getting the same data, and they're all saying that most people are talking about Vance or Newsom as being the candidate. So that's the conclusion that all 3 of them are coming to. But it's not able to take into consideration, a breakout moment from someone, or like a scandal of some sort, What if somebody ends up on that list? Yeah. But I think that it's likely that someone completely unheard of will come out of nowhere and has a very good chance of becoming the president, just because of the state the world is in. And I mean, it's not like it's so unfamiliar at this point, because I mean, it did happen with Trump in the first time. Like, that's why I think that someone who has a background in the tech industry has the most likelihood of them just popping up out of nowhere and becoming a serious candidate. Because the discussions around AI are probably going to be the discussions that attract the most interest ever in any debate topic that probably didn't feature like war as a prime subject. Probably like back in World War II, that's probably like where the only real major thing that most people were thinking about during that election. Like, I mean, of course they're going to be asked questions about climate change and social security and yada yada, but the majority of their debates are all going to be centered around AI, because you're not going to want to hear those AI discussions by potential presidential candidates, because they're not going to be saying anything new that you guys haven't heard already. Because those answers, they're going to be answers that are mainly tailored to the general public. They're going to be, what do you want me to say? AI is good? Well, AI is good. Well, do you want me to say AI is bad? Because AI is bad. What do you want? So what I'm saying is they need to direct their answers more at engineers, data scientists, cloud architects, people who are already have felt the results of a AI revolution. And if someone from the tech industry doesn't necessarily run for president per se, I hope that they at least do some things that are unconventional and are more up to date with the times we are in. Like, instead of just having your typical vice president and president, we probably need a technical president whose main responsibility is not to respond to what technical innovations have already happened, but to shape what it is becoming. Because currently technical developments are far outpacing the ability to govern them. Like a law you implement now would not be sufficient in 5 years, for compute infrastructure, biotechnology, space exploration, data sovereignty, cybersecurity, all of these things. You're going to want someone who has the wherewithal and the ability to act on it, because one decision now will be extremely hard to reverse in the future. And they would have similar, like, indoctrination with, like, vice president. Like, you will have to vote for all three of them opposed to all two of them. And they will have their own, like, debates and things where they are discussing things on a more technical level that actually are significant to what we want as a country and what we need as a country. Because, I mean, if you look at the Constitution, like the first points, which are probably the ones, they are thinking are the most important, those are all related to, physical safety and punishments for different types of crimes. But they couldn't imagine a world with a computer at the time. They didn't even have electricity at that point. So what courts and things do is they take those existing amendments and put them into modern context for things that are related to internet or more digital environments. But that gives, like, courts the possibility to reach different conclusions for similar situations. And with AI now, good luck trying to get a group of courts coming to a consensus among digital laws. So that's why, like, someone from the tech industry would literally put nightmares in traditional politicians, because when it comes to subjects that revolve around AI, they will just be able to do laps around them for real. Because this group, my group, we're going to be a very radical group this election, you guys. I'm telling you now, we're going to be very radical. And if we think that there's a clear candidate that we support, we are going to push that candidate very, very hard, because people like y'all are going to be looking for people who are mentioning this term universal basic income. But we are looking for people who express the idea of universal basic compute. Because right now we're trending towards a place where the best capability of using AI is only given to enterprises who have a lot of money, who can afford to pay these companies hundreds of thousands of dollars so they can do what they want with their products. But that is going to really stifle innovation from everyone else if they don't have the same access to the compute as other people do. And throughout history, we've really had, like, 3 areas where currency was redefined by something. The first being land. If you had land, you had power. And In the industrial area, if you had the machines in the factories, you had power. In the internet era, if you had data, you had power. And now we are coming into the generation where if you have compute, you now have power. And what compute allows you to do is like, if you have more compute, you have better models. If you have better models, you can get more users. If you have more users, you're able to generate more data, which improves and makes better models. And this is just a loop until the models are able to improve themselves, which is AGI. And this whole model of universal basic compute, it kind of revolves around the idea that AGI will be achieved, because what that will mean is that it's going to need a lot of compute power, right? So access to the compute isn't less important. It's literally everything. You're not going to be able to just say, okay, AGI was achieved, so we can turn off everything and let it handle the rest for us. It's pretty much like the starting point of everything else, because like AGI, you're going to want it to run everywhere. Think about your regular devices and stuff, how like no matter where you go, you are still like served the same application or the same functionality of something. It doesn't change based on where you are. A good analogy to imagine it is the internet. Imagine the internet today running on the infrastructure and the bandwidth that was used in 1995 when it first was publicized. And think about a microscope, for example. When the microscope was invented, it didn't mean that that was the end of biology. That just meant like it opened up a new set of questions that nobody knew. That is essentially the same thing that will happen when AGI is achieved. And it's obvious that AI is going to replace some jobs, but it should also be obvious that it's going to create more jobs. But what people are not saying is that if we do not get this under control, like the jobs that it does create, we are losing access to the ability to create those jobs. And we are going to put that into the power of a single entity or entities, because they like OpenAI and Claude and not and Meta specifically, they are using the cloud to their resources for hosting their models, right? So the main providers are AWS, Microsoft, Azure, and Google Cloud. But you can kind of think of like the difference between the two as like they are the brain, but the cloud is the body. So when you're interacting with your AI platform, you're really interacting with the cloud platform that AI company is using. So everyone is at the behemoth of these cloud providers, mainly AWS, Amazon Web Services. They are by far the biggest in cloud computing. And I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but your boy was definitely AWS certified too. From 18 to 22, your boy was an AWS developer. But what that really means is that I know how to build an EC2. Tooted and booted. If the cloud providers start doing things, it's affecting everybody else. So if the cloud providers' prices go up, well, that means that everybody else's prices are going to go up. And if a system goes down or the cloud goes down, then people will directly start to see the results of their dependence on the cloud. I mean, it's already happened in some cases. In March, there was like a pretty big outage that was due to AWS, and that restricted people's ability to use EC2, which is elastic compute, which is essentially like being able to have like virtual instances or virtual machines in the cloud and being able to dynamically size them. Think about it in terms of like a regular computer. How many gigabytes of RAM and storage do you buy from the base? But you have options to upgrade it, right? So that's essentially what that is. So before I tell you what I think universal basic compute is, let me tell you what it isn't. It's not universal basic income. It's not a check that the government is just handing out to you or compensating you. Instead, it's a stake in the most valuable infrastructure or valuable invention ever on Earth. And what you can do with that stake is up to you. You can use it to learn something or build something, or you can sell it, which is where your universal basic income will probably come from, is from selling your UBC credits, your universal basic compute. You can think of it like every month, every citizen will be given like a public allocation of compute credits against public infrastructure. And the baseline of those credits are unconditional, meaning you don't have to say what you're using them for or demonstrate some type of technical ability. You can kind of think of like it equal to a library card or public road. It's not restricting your ability to drive on the public road or check out a book. And the physical infrastructure of UBC is federally backed and distributed across the country. So how it will be achievable is essentially by taking some of the compute power from data centers and applying that towards public infrastructure. Because if you don't know, most data centers aren't designed for it to be used at maximum capacity all the time. It's designed in a way that it has a lot of idle resources. So you are essentially going to get 15% of idle resources from data centers that are operating above a defined megawatt threshold, like 100 megawatts. So anything above that is required to contribute to public or shared infrastructure. And the argument is that you're essentially taking an underutilized asset, idle compute, and making it useful by contributing the compute to the public commons. And it should be obvious that you don't want to be reliant just on these hyperscale data centers providing the only compute for UBC. So it will also require federally owned data centers, federal infrastructure, public infrastructure that they build themselves. And most of you probably only see the baseline for what it is. Why would we need these credits to just use ChatGPT and to make videos, AI videos of ourselves and whatever? But, you're going to be able to have your own environment, your own closed model that is only yours. So think of it in terms of a teacher who has been teaching for 10 years, right? You're going to be able to start to form patterns on how your students react towards different material, towards different assignments, and it will allow the teacher to start accommodating everybody's learning levels, because that's one issue that is happening in public schools now is like a lot of students are going to homeschooling because when you're learning in a public space, you're going at a pace that is best for everyone, but not best for you. And with homeschooling, you're going at your own pace. So really, you're able to learn like a week's worth of material in one day. But those students who are going to homeschooling, they can be useful in public schools by shrinking the gap between the smartest person and the second smartest person, and then shrinking the gap between the two smartest people to the next two smartest people. But UBC, it should hypothetically help with cheating. It will allow nobody to have the same set of questions or the same test. Because, your tests are going to be like, in the future, your test will be used with AI. Like, you're not going to be able to take a test and the teacher say you're not allowed to use any resources. They're going to be like, they're going to lock everything down and allow you to use their model to pretty much take the test, do your research. Same with doctors and movie makers, content creators. There's a lot more than what meets the eye to this type of technology. And this is where the United States will really separate itself from China.
I'm trying to shine like China.
Because the entire value of UBC, the cryptographic layer, is that no central authority can manipulate how credits are issued or restrict what gets built. So they'll never really be able to open up the innovation layer just based on how they are designed, the CCP. And for it to work where it is truly distributed, the population are contributing their devices towards public compute. Your phone, your computer, and that would be like done in phases. In dream scenario, it will be with agreements with the phone system, the operating system on the phone, to have certain software that allows you to run this. But at the beginning, it will just be an app, most likely, that you install, and whenever your phone or laptop is like plugged in and on Wi-Fi, and you're gonna need a new phone and a new computer. You ain't gonna be able to do this shit with old shit, nigga. Go buy a new phone, nigga. Of course, these devices won't be able to do like a lot of throughput or output in terms of like what it's doing, but it will at least be able to contribute something, and in terms of helping a model by with gradient updates, because a model is essentially like a giant set of numbers called weights that make predictions on text, images, videos. So what it would essentially be doing is like adjusting those weights to get the best image or get the best output. What most people will probably end up doing is they will get like better infrastructure themselves so they can like compute more, rather opposed to just like relying on your phone or laptop. Because if you have like a gaming PC, that gaming PC could do more computations in an hour than your phone could do in a month. So it would be wise to just invest in the stronger thing, right? And when that happens, the answer the question that you're going to have to ask is, what is considered useful, which is a policy question, and how do we know that happened, which is a technical question. Because when you start distributing AI computation across potentially millions of devices, one of the biggest problems that occur is like, how do you know that the computation actually happened and correctly? ZK proofs, zero knowledge proofs, which is one of the most important inventions in modern cryptography, because It's a way to prove something happened without revealing the underlying information. Privacy and verification. Because like most like Bitcoin mining facilities, Bitcoin mining has slowed down a lot recently because it became less attractive because it costs more to mine a Bitcoin than actually what a Bitcoin is worth. So you don't have many miners now, and the people who were using their compute resources have now gravitated towards AI, meaning like not the actual tech, but the warehouses, the cooling that was implemented. They've taken these existing facilities and turned them more into AI facilities. And a key difference that most people should know about between crypto and AI, like the computations that are happening, is like they're two very different things, because most people will probably think that like they're both doing the same, they're both doing math, so why can't we just like mix them both? And they're doing two separate types of math. Crypto is essentially like doing as many transactions per second with slight changes, which is deterministic math. The same input always has the same output. And AI is running statistical math. The same input can have different outputs, but it's okay because it's not looking for exactness. It's looking for pattern recognition. So the combination of cryptographic principles and AI will allow this to not only be feasible, but desirable, because it is going to be the only currency in history that would have more value as the technology improves. And you can't say that about any other currency. The gold standard, which was pretty much a system where a country's currency's value was directly linked to gold, allowing more paper money to be converted into fixed amount of gold. It was used up until 1971, and they got rid of it because it just wasn't able to support the economy anymore, because it limited the government's ability to borrow and spend money. You can only have as much money as you have gold. And when you need to spend a lot of money in a short amount of time for infrastructure or for wars and stuff, it becomes very limiting. And fiat currency, which is just like US dollars, euro, every dollar that is printed, it dilutes the value of previously printed dollars, which is inflation. And Bitcoin, which has a fixed supply, but it doesn't produce anything, it's mostly just speculative. And scarcity is not the same as actual value creation, which is what UBC is, because when the underlying technology doubles in efficiency, your credits don't hold the same value. They represent twice the productive output. That has never existed. Not once in any economy. And what proves the whole point is just go and look up the top 10 most valuable companies in the world. It's Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, Berkshire, Broadcom, Tesla. 9 of 10 of those are all tech companies. The only one that isn't is Berkshire. But Warren Buffett, I mean, 40% of his portfolio is Apple. They make up a $18 trillion market cap. T, not B. And every dollar of their value exists because of compute. So compute is not the future of the economy. It is the economy. And what essentially happened was we socialized the existence of their companies by generating mass amounts of data, books, art, code. All of these things were publicly generated and used in the training of these models. But what also was socialized was the workforce. Everyone who worked at these companies, they went to a university, took on student loans, and most of the counter arguments probably assume that there could be a possible human adversary, like corrupt government or a bad actor or a manipulative corporation. But the real adversary is the system itself. What if the AI gets smart enough that it is able to do certain things without stating that? Like discover exploits in the ZK-proof protocol. Not by brute force, but by understanding the math at a level that it is able to find the edge cases of the protocol that pass verification without performing the actual work. But the hardest thing to probably audit would be like bad data or poison data at scale, because if you have like millions of edge nodes or devices that are contributing to the public commons compute, and it's able to manipulate the gradient updates or the weights, the only person who will be able to identify that would be people who are actually knowing what is happening. And it's not a sci-fi scenario. It's just the straightforward consequence of giving a general purpose optimization system access to a currency it can earn and spend. And really, there isn't a complete answer that anyone could give about that possibility. We can only make architectural decisions that make that harder. But here's the thing, the alternative of this public compute, which is a concentrated private compute, with no public visibility, no open protocol, that would just make the possibility of it becoming misaligned or going rogue easier, because it won't have to circumvent as wide of an area. Just think, like, if you want to determine that a specific AI is safe, are you just going to want that specific company to say that it is safe, or would you rather have all of the companies say, okay, yeah, we deem this safe? But I'm not going to sit here and talk about UBC forever. We'll probably be here till 2098 if I do. Because, seriously, dude, do you be seeing what I be saying? Because if you be seeing, then I may be seeing. All the way to the store. Buying a big old bottle of Don Julio. Nah, I'm going to just get a bottle of Smirnoff, big old bottle. Like $26. Tastes like rubbing alcohol. Don't ask me how I know what rubbing alcohol tastes like, but I know what alcohol tastes like, and all alcohol tastes the same. For real. I was at the store recently, and there was an older person who was working at the store, and there was a guy who was a little younger than me, probably, but Clearly this nigga is at least 21 years old. But this old person, they're always carding everybody. You could look older than them, but they're gonna be like, let me see that card, boy. And when the guy who was in front of me showed his card to the woman, she was like, yeah, we got warned not to be on the lookout for people underage buying alcohol tonight because it's prom night and we don't want nobody to die on prom night. And I was just like, damn, that shit escalated quick. You mean you couldn't just have wanted them to have a bad prom? You just had to escalate it into they're gonna die if they get these drinks tonight. So old people just be, I think they think that rules don't apply to them niggas no more. But we need to, somebody need to wake these old niggas up. Or we just need to go ahead and put them to sleep. You know what I mean? Because I was driving recently and, I'm in a part of the town that I don't normally go to. So, I'm like looking at my phone trying to be like, all right, where do I go? And I'm in the wrong lane to get to the place where I gotta go. So, and we're at a red light and I'm pretty much like maneuvering my car to get over into this lane while it's at a red light. And the guy the dude looked like he had like an oxygen tank connected to him. He was yelling at me with the windows down. He's like, you can't do that. You can't get over. You're not allowed to go this way. And I was like, nigga, yes I am. I'm about to. You can't do that. You're not allowed to go there. And as soon as I do it, this motherfucker is honking his horn and shit at me. And shit really riled me up. So I get to this girl's crib that I'm going to meet. And, I'm stressed. I just got into an altercation with an old man while driving. Road rage. So I'm just sitting there talking to this girl and I'm like, yeah, that nigga, he lucky I ain't take his fucking oxygen tank and put some carbon dioxide in it. I can't breathe. Somebody put carbon dioxide in my oxygen. What the fuck are you doing driving a soccer mom van for, nigga? Fuck out my face, nigga. I can't breathe. But kind of backtracking to what I mentioned in episode 17 about 4D, I kind of see this as potentially 4D, but this whole idea is very futuristic. I'm sure some of you have probably thought about this, but have never been like, how is this going to get done if that shit actually comes to fruition? But personal aircraft, not in the sense that everyone has their own airplane or whatever, but more like airplanes becoming personalized, kind of similar to what Uber is. Uber flipped transportation because before that, you're essentially waiting on the transportation, a bus, a taxi to appear, the schedules of whatever transportation you're using. But Uber made it so like you can order an Uber to you. And in terms of flying, you would pretty much order a plane to your backyard or to a local place where many planes are going in and coming out from. Instead of an airport, you can kind of think of it like an air station that would take you anywhere across the world. And it's 4D from the idea that if you just think about it as like when you're on an airplane, they have like the flight paths of the plane that you're on and like how long it takes to get there or whatever. And then if you look at some type of like data visualization, sometimes you'll see like all of the flights going in one time. But you can kind of think of like if you have a map just flat on the ground and then you essentially like duplicate it up and then duplicate it up like hundreds of times. You have layers of the same map, which kind of can be considered like space and time by projecting or predicting the outcome from one path to another. So on that layered grid, you also have like the flight path, which is the time portion of it. I don't know, but you know how crazy it would be for niggas just to order a plane and that shit to pop up in your backyard for you and your girl. I'm not saying it needs to be some extravagant plane. I mean, most likely it's just gonna be like almost like the size of the car. I mean, you can get in and lay down and shit too. Probably got a bathroom in there. I mean, you're gonna have a comfortable ride. You're gonna have a comfortable ride riding on this plane, I tell you, but America's problem will be like, man, do you know how many fucking people we already got? Introduce some type of verification for any point that ends up in America. So, have your passport, have your visa ready, scan it before you go, scan it before you get on. You're gonna have to do some facial recognition, some shit, some crazy shit, I don't know. But this is where it can be turned into UBC, Universal Basic Compute, because how these airplanes will talk and communicate with one another, it's like they're going to be requesting computation to do it. So essentially, whenever a new airplane comes online, the plane is saying, compute me a valid path through X, Y, and Z that avoid all conflicts, right? So then it has your base path, but now you have to take into consideration new planes that will be coming online at any point that can interfere with that. So it is now doing many more computations down to millisecond for like where planes will be at a certain place at a certain point in time. And you will be using your UBC credits to do that, to travel essentially. So you won't need to even buy plane tickets. You're just using your UBC credits to travel. Uh-oh. This nigga should be rich, shouldn't he? This nigga should be super rich. Because I would definitely design this to not be abused by cheap niggas like me. You wouldn't be able to just book you an airplane with 100 credits left on your fucking account, nigga. And then we in the midair, and now your credit balance is in the negative, so I gotta wait till next month to get my fucking credits. I ain't gonna do that shit. You just stuck in the middle of the air. Your plane just comes to complete stop, and it don't do nothing until you get more credits. So you're at that standstill for literally 18 days. I'm thinking about jumping out of here for real. Our creator packed it with a parachute just in case disaster happens. So got me a little parachute in here. But in reality, like, this whole idea, it's not like it's blocked by imagination. It's technically possible. The blocker is policy. We aren't even near this type of systematic agreement across the world that would allow something like this. Well, it sounds like you're laying the groundwork for your political campaign, man. So what's the first thing you're going to do when you become president? Oh, you already know. I got me a call to make. Hey, yo! C! What's up, girl? Yeah, I'm in the Oval Office right now. I just became president and shit. I was just seeing if you wanted to still come through and shit, you know? Real shit. But hey, when you open this voicemail, just hit me back. I'm the president now, so. You know, I've always thought that, like, when it comes to the presidency, that you essentially had to be married to become president, because everyone has always had the first lady, right, which is your wife of the president. And, you know, technically that's not the case. There was one instance where someone wasn't, like, married. It was James Buchanan, the only president who was never married. He served from 1857 to 1861. And if you're anything like me, you're like, man, that shit don't fucking count. That shit was forever ago, nigga. Fucking 1857, man. Real presidency didn't start for real until the 1900s. I mean, you know how lit it would be to be a single president, nigga? A single president, man. I'll be the first single president. You could smash anything. You're gonna have bitches asking you for some startup money. I'm gonna be like, startup money, girl? Why you want startup money when you could end up here with me? Come on now. I'm the president. But One really crazy loophole that some of you guys may have known that has never been tested, but I mean, I just told you how JD Vance and Gavin Newsom, I mean, that's what people are saying, but you know, it's also possible that a president who has served 2 term limits become vice president, which means that a president could essentially be in office for 16 years. Crazy. But for real, like if I really became president, one of my first things that I would do in office is I would make it mandatory that McDoubles come back to $1. Yep. McDoubles are coming back to $1. Fuck that. Buy one, get one for $1 shit. But now your whole total is fucking $5 because you want to get 2 McDoubles, 2 double cheeseburgers. That shit ain't $1 now. But here's a sign that most of you niggas probably need to stop eating that shit. If y'all are the type of nigga who dips your double cheeseburger or your McChicken sandwich in a packet of sweet and sour or a packet of ranch sauce, it's probably not a real burger, nigga. I feel personally attacked. I love coating my double cheeseburgers in sweet and sour sauce. I love coating them. Another thing I love is raw cookie dough. Raw frozen cookie dough. They sit there and tell you on the package, give you a warning, please do not consume raw cookie dough. Like, bitch, you're going to have to do something else besides just put a warning label on something. You're going to have to put it in an unopenable jar. Make sure I can't get to it. I feel bad for old people who be like, who got tons of jarred things and they can't open them. You get a phone call from your next door neighbor who's fucking 75. Like, hey, can you come over here and open this jar of salsa for me? Well, that depends, Miss Haymaker. You gonna let me get some of that salsa? Yeah, you can have some of the salsa. Okay, I'm gonna be right over there. Give me 5 minutes. I think one of the stupidest things, like when you go to a doctor, is like measuring your blood pressure. I feel like that is probably like the most stupidest thing that is measurable when you go to the doctor, because, you know, they already know that most of the time the shit is going to be normal, and it's pretty much just for reassurance or to assure you that, yep, everything's all right. Your blood pressure's not high, so everything's good for you.
But I can't breathe. Somebody put carbon dioxide in my oxygen tank.
Miss Haymaker, did you put more carbon dioxide in Mr. Haymaker's oxygen tank? I didn't do it. He did it himself this time. I got him on camera. Look at you, mister. Here you are. Look. Putting carbon dioxide in your own fucking oxygen tank. Put him to sleep.
You ever just be like getting ready to go to a function but be too fucked up to actually go to the function, but the function still come to you type shit? How you know a nigga poppin', banging on the door like why you not knocking? Got me up hopscotching, peeking out the window just to see 20 niggas I don't even know.